Hey everyone, it's Sefki. We live in a world that's more connected than ever. We can talk to anyone across the globe in an instant, share our lives with the click of a button, and yet, so many of us feel incredibly alone. And that's a real paradox, isn't it? We're surrounded by billions of people, yet loneliness seems to be this silent epidemic. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the reasons why the modern world can feel so isolating. Why is it that with all these tools to connect, we often end up feeling more disconnected? We'll explore the impact of technology, the fast pace of life, the changing dynamics of communities, and so much more. But this isn't just about understanding the problem, it's also about finding solutions. We'll talk about ways to combat loneliness, build meaningful connections, and navigate this strange, complex world together. Because remember, you're not alone in feeling alone.
So let's talk about technology. It's pretty amazing, right? I mean, I can video chat with a friend across the world, which is mind-blowing. But here's the thing, is it actually bringing us closer, or is it creating more distance between us? Think about it. How often do you find yourself scrolling through social media, seeing everyone else's seemingly perfect lives, and feeling worse about your own? It's easy to fall into the trap of comparison, of feeling like you're not good enough, not doing enough, not being enough. And what about those virtual friendships? Can they ever truly replace the feeling of sitting across from a friend, sharing a meal, having a real in-person conversation? Don't get me wrong, online friendships can be meaningful, but they shouldn't be the only kind of connection we have. We've started prioritizing online validation over genuine human interaction. We're so busy crafting the perfect image of ourselves online that we forget to nurture the relationships that truly matter offline. And that, my friends, is a recipe for loneliness. We crave those likes, those comments, those little notifications that tell us we're seen and heard. But are we really being seen and heard through a screen? Or are we just projecting an image of ourselves into the void, hoping for a response? It's time to put down the phones, step away from the screens, and reconnect with the world around us. Because real life, with all its messiness and imperfections, is where true connection happens. It's in the shared laughter with friends, the comforting hug from a loved one, the feeling of belonging to a community. Those are the things that make us feel truly alive, truly connected. So how do we break free from this cycle of technological loneliness? It starts with being mindful of our tech use. Set boundaries, create tech-free zones, and make a conscious effort to engage in activities that bring you joy and connect you with others in the real world. Remember, technology is a tool. It can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to decide how we want to use it. Let's use it to connect, to learn, to grow. But let's not let it become a barrier to real human connection.
Okay, so we've talked about technology, but it's not the only culprit in this loneliness epidemic. Let's talk about the pace of modern life, because let's be real, it's kind of insane, right? We're constantly on the go, rushing from one thing to the next, always plugged in, always accessible. It's like we're afraid to slow down, to disconnect, to just be. And that constant hustle can take a toll on our mental health and our relationships. Think about it. When was the last time you had a real conversation with someone? Not just a quick text exchange or a surface-level chat, but a real, heart-to-heart conversation where you felt truly seen and heard. It's tough to make time for those deep connections when we're constantly bombarded with work emails, social media notifications, and the pressure to be productive every waking moment. And here's the thing, stress and loneliness, they feed off each other. When we're stressed, we're less likely to reach out to others. And when we're lonely, we're more susceptible to stress. It's a vicious cycle. We isolate ourselves because we feel like we don't have the time or energy for anything else. And that isolation just makes us feel even more stressed and alone. It's like we're trapped in this whirlwind of our own making. So how do we break free? It's not easy, but it starts with prioritizing our well-being. We need to learn to say no to things, to set boundaries, to make time for ourselves and for the people who matter most. It's about finding a balance between work and life, between being connected and being present. It's about giving ourselves permission to slow down, to breathe, to just be.
There's this strange irony, isn't there? We flock to cities, these bustling hubs of activity and opportunity, surrounded by millions of people, yet so many of us feel incredibly alone. So why is loneliness often amplified in these concrete jungles? Well, for one thing, cities can be incredibly transient. People are constantly moving in and out, making it harder to form lasting connections. It's like we're all just passing through, ships in the night, never quite dropping anchor. And then there's the anonymity factor. You can walk down a crowded street, pass hundreds of faces, and not a single person knows your name. It's easy to feel invisible, insignificant, lost in the crowd. Remember those old sitcoms where everyone knew their neighbors, where people looked out for each other? Yeah, that sense of community, that feeling of belonging to something bigger than ourselves, it's often missing in urban environments. We're so focused on our own individual pursuits, on getting ahead, on making it in the big city, that we forget the importance of human connection. But here's the thing, we need each other. We're social creatures by nature, hardwired for connection. So how do we combat loneliness in the city? It takes effort, intentionality. It's about seeking out communities, finding your tribe, those people who get you, who make you feel seen and heard. Join a club, volunteer for a cause you care about, strike up a conversation with a barista. You never know where you'll find your people.
We're living in a time of immense change, right? Old traditions are being questioned, social norms are shifting, and it can feel like everything's up in the air. And while this can be exciting, it can also be incredibly disorienting. We're constantly bombarded with messages about who we should be, what we should believe, how we should live our lives. It's easy to lose sight of our own values, our own sense of self, in all the noise. And when we don't know who we are, it's hard to feel like we belong anywhere. We crave that sense of connection, that feeling of being part of something bigger than ourselves, but it can feel elusive when we're still figuring out our own place in the world. It's like we're all on these individual journeys of self-discovery, trying to navigate this complex world without a map. And sometimes those journeys can feel pretty lonely. But here's the thing, it's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to be a work in progress. In fact, that's part of what makes life interesting. The key is to embrace the journey, to be open to new experiences, to connect with people who challenge and inspire you. Find your people, those who accept you for who you are, flaws and all. Because true belonging isn't about fitting in, it's about being seen and loved for your authentic self.
Here's a hard truth. We all crave connection, but sometimes our own fears and insecurities can hold us back. We worry about being judged, rejected, ridiculed. We build walls around our hearts, convinced that it's safer to be alone than to risk getting hurt. And I get it. Putting yourself out there can be terrifying. It's vulnerable, exposing yourself to the possibility of rejection. But here's the thing. Vulnerability is also the birthplace of connection. When we allow ourselves to be seen, truly seen, flaws and all, we create space for genuine connection. But that means letting go of the need to be perfect, of the fear of judgment. It's about embracing our imperfections, our quirks, the things that make us unique. Because those are the things that make us interesting, relatable, human. And for some of us, this fear of judgment can manifest as social anxiety. It's more than just shyness. It's a debilitating fear of social situations that can make it incredibly difficult to connect with others. If you struggle with social anxiety, know that you're not alone. It's a common experience, and there's help available. Therapy, support groups, and self-help strategies can equip you with the tools to manage your anxiety and build meaningful connections. Remember, connection is our birthright. We all deserve to experience the joy and fulfillment that comes from deep, meaningful relationships. Don't let fear hold you back from experiencing the beauty of human connection.
So, we've covered a lot of ground here, from the impact of technology to the fear of judgment. It's clear that loneliness is a complex issue with no easy answers. But here's the thing. Even though it feels incredibly isolating, it's something we all experience at some point in our lives. The good news is that there are things we can do to combat loneliness. It starts with awareness, with acknowledging the problem and understanding the factors that contribute to it. From there, we can start making small changes in our lives like prioritizing real-life interactions over online connections, setting boundaries with technology, and seeking out communities that align with our values and interests. And remember, it's okay to ask for help. If you're struggling, reach out to a therapist, counselor, or trusted friend or family member. You don't have to go through this alone. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of loneliness in the modern world. I hope this video has given you some insights and tools to navigate this complex emotion. Don't forget to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more content like this.